I think an answer could be there's a lot of stylistic things that are a thread throughout our music. You know, at the same time we've got big, heavy songs with guitars and drums and riffs and you know, rhythm is kind of throughout, and then we've got some mellow ballads where it's literally a guitar and a voice or something like that.
What's weird is that your ambition is to not make defining elements.
Well, what I was going to say is that those things I would consider the dressings of a song. You know, anything that you do to a song, whether it's instrumentation or production or how it's recorded, these things are the dressings of a song. But really, I would say the defining aspects of our song are our individualities and you know, which are still being formed, and they are either clear or not in any given song. But ultimately, each one of us writes on our own, and we put our individuality into the music, or we try to. And then you take a song and you kind of dress it up. You put the band on it, or you put some production on it. And
I think the only it's not a defining aspect. It's a qualification for the song. Is it just has to be good, which I know is kind of subjective. But at least within us four, we're kind of like the democracy that says, is this song good or is it not good? And if it's good, then we'll find a way to make it work as a band, and we'll, you know, like Jesse says, put the dressing on it. But
well, I guess okay, maybe I've got an angle on this question then, because I've been thinking about this a lot. You know, the Beatles, not to compare ourselves to the Beatles.
Yeah, we're way better.
Way better, way bigger. But in terms of a successful band, they are the most diverse in their sounds, not just from era to era of theirs, but even within an album. It's hard to hear what do the Beatles sound like. You know what I mean? Like, people can now mimic certain songs, like, oh, that sounds Fool on the Hill-ish or Penny Lane-ish. Mm-hmm. But each album was just so all over the place, sonically, songwriting style and all of that, because they were all writing and they were just completely out there. But I was trying to think, are there any other bands that are actually diverse, that are hugely successful like that? And that's why there's such an anomaly, because when you look at like a big band like Foo Fighters, a huge rock band, I'm not dissing them in any way, but it basically sounds like Foo Fighters every album, you know, like slightly different, but it basically sounds guitar rock sort of thing. And it's pretty much true, I think, for most bands. And I think this is where we've had a bit of a hard time, is because a lot of people do want to like go to this band for, I want this kind of music to put in my playlist. And it's not easy to do that with us, because it's always different. Ultimately, I think it'll be a strength if we can achieve it, you know, properly.
Yeah, immortality.
But the Beatles had all the right ingredients for that variety, because they had two extremely prolific writers at any given time, and then the next two started to write more as well as they went on. Then they went through the psychedelic revolution. Then they went to India. Then the whole scene in the world of pop music changed, and they were leading the way. So all of the right forces came together to make them have this really varied catalog, and they didn't tour that much.
But I'm saying there's still kind of an anomaly. I mean, obviously they're an anomaly, but you look like Led Zeppelin still basically sounds like Led Zeppelin. Yeah. And even a lot of other bands, as great as they all are, they were very much what their sound was. And so when we get a questions like, what is the defining elements of our sound, I think our aspiration is in the vein of the Beatles. Like, obviously it's an aspiration because they've never been paralleled in terms of...
They just matured and evolved like no other band did. You know, if you listen to their early albums, the first couple albums, it's very influenced by, you know, like early rock and roll and the Everly Brothers and things like that. And then they just completely found some sense of individuality, where if you listen to, I feel like, oh, I love Led Zeppelin, but if you listen to Led Zeppelin or even Rolling Stones, like throughout their career, it didn't evolve that much. They wrote good songs, but it didn't evolve as a form, like an art form.
And I think that sometimes in terms of like the business side or the success of a career is the timing of when that happens. Like, they had so much success. Bob Dylan's another, but he's a perfect example of constantly changing and evolving, where, you know, it always sounds like Bob Dylan because his voice is so distinctive, but he's fucking done everything.
Although that one Christmas album was not an evolution, that was a devolution.
But, you know, it's like in some respects, in America, for us, Come With Me Now was such a big thing for us that had we had another Come With Me Now-esque song that had gone and cemented that as a base, it might have been easier for us to move on to new stuff, because I think a lot of people still now listen to our stuff and think, why come this song doesn't sound like the Come With Me Now? And like, it was never like that. None of the albums have ever been that similar in their sound. So I don't know. I've just been thinking about this a lot in terms of us going forward, and I think we just keep our goal high, aim for the Beatles. We'll fall flat, but go for that.